Welcome to Redefining Real Estate. I'm Rylan.
And I'm Morgan. Expect a mix of education, humor, and authentic conversation as we explore all things real estate.
Let's jump into today's episode.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Redefining Real Estate podcast. Today we're going to be talking about what we have experienced in the market for 2025. So Rylan, I'm curious, what has your experience been with your clients so far?
So far we've been looking into the resale a little bit, and that didn't go necessarily as planned. My client was kind of very upfront and honest that she did not want like new construction. She didn't really want like the cookie cutter lifestyle, if you will. So we went the resale route, looked at a ton of different houses, no HOA, so you got to see like some pretty cool stuff, just things that were different. But we submitted, I think, 3 different offers, and all within, I think, around 2 weeks from each other, and had the same result every single time. We were looking around the, 225 to 250 price range, maybe a little bit more, a little less, but no, 4 offers. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
4 offers.
That's a lot.
We submitted 4 offers within the month of January. And again, the same outcome every single time. The home was roughly 20 grand, 30 grand overpriced, and my comps didn't support that number. So we offered lower, and they were kind of just unwilling to negotiate. That's kind of been a big thing for me this year so far, but what about you?
I would agree with that, especially on resale homes. I have a lot of clients looking under 300, like so similar to what you mentioned. They don't want an HOA, and I think what the biggest issue is there's been a lot of houses that have been sitting on the market. And so obviously like a buyer's point of view is, okay, it's sitting on the market. We probably have some room to negotiate here. And then you go look at it, you like it, you're wondering why hasn't this sold yet? And then, we run the comps and it's severely overpriced. And this is even with like newer homes that are coming on the market. I think that the ones that are priced correctly, that are in good condition, and that are in ideal locations, they are not sitting for very long. Like Correct. I would say, from what I've seen, like a couple of days max, and then they're gone. So I think we just really have to be very diligent right now, and why it's so important to be approved, because you will need that. You need that sense of urgency to move forward as quickly as possible.
Yes, yeah. I think we're kind of past the time of, looking at houses, loving it, wanting to submit an offer, and then going to get the pre-approval.
Yeah.
Because now I feel like, we haven't even talked about it yet, but I'm pretty sure you had a house that didn't even sit for a day or something like that. But something super fast like that, like had you not been ready to do every single thing or had all your ducks in a row before you submitted that offer, like who knows what the outcome would have been for your client,
Right.
So yeah, that's something that I think is almost like necessary nowadays. But yeah, how have you been working around the overpriced things? Have you been like successful in figuring out a way to like figure it out, or has it just been kind of like look, we're so far off, like I can't justify anything?
Yeah, so it depends on the client, right? Like if it's someone that we've made multiple offers on other houses with, they kind of understand where people are at, and sometimes they just don't want to waste their time, depending on the property. But I have a first-time home buyer right now. She's looking kind of in College Station, Navasota area. And so we found a house in Navasota. It was kind of right above her budget. And so I told her, hey, it just came on the market a week ago. Like, we can go look at it, but just know it hasn't been on the market that long. I do not know how much they're going to be willing to negotiate. So after we see the house, she really loves it. It's like number 1 on her list out of everything we've seen, and we've seen a lot. And so she wants to make an offer, and my philosophy is like, okay, the worst thing they can say is no. At least this kind of gets you some experience and understanding what's going on. But yeah, that house, I felt like the comps were $15,000 below where they put it, and that's on the high end.
Wow.
And it's difficult, especially in Navasota, because there's even less houses selling there than there are here. So like, you can't really use the last 6 months of data. You have to go back a year. And this house is in a neighborhood where there's been new development. And so like, the agent used a new comp that was built in 2018, and this one was built like in the 90s. And she just basically took these 3 comps and like averaged the price per square foot. And I'm like,
Yuck.
okay, but you did no adjustments on the 2018.
Yeah.
So like, how'd you get that? And we had a conversation about it, and she didn't really have an explanation. Like, she just did not do any adjustments.
Right.
And she was just like, well, we just take average price per square foot. And I'm like, that would be great if these 3 homes were the exact same or more similar. But
Yeah.
if there's a 20-year difference in build, that's way different.
With no adjustment.
No, with no adjustment. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's that's wild. I had literally that same experience multiple times in the month of January, and I had people comparing a 2024 home to like a 1980s house, and I was like, please tell me why this makes sense.
Yeah.
And he told me that, well, like there was enough updating on the inside of the home that it justifies being compared to a 2024. I was like, first off, pal.
That's not how that works.
Yes. And I was like, all the windows are original. The roof is like 10 plus years old. And I had a whole list of things because I figured he was going to say that.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I had like flooring. Did you replace like the insulation? Like I had all this just stuff just to rattle off that, like, you know, made it make sense, hopefully. But I almost feel like they're just trying to like get a certain number for their clients, and they have to say it because like there's no way.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the bigger issues. Is I don't know if it's necessarily the agent's fault or just sellers' expectations in general.
Right.
Because I think people still think they can throw something on the market, not prep it, like not do anything to the house, and get offers on it.
Right.
But that's not the market that we're in anymore.
Right, and like you can get an offer, but it's not going to be what you want.
Right.
And yeah, it got really frustrating going back and forth with those agents every single time, because you can never tell if it's the agent that doesn't know or if it's, again, like the seller's false expectations. But yeah, it was just that same process every time.
It's very frustrating.
Yes, and I was like, please send me comps so I can justify this to my client, like something, just help me. And there's just no data. But again, that's not the case for everyone. But
Yeah.
that was how my kind of January, February time took off. But she has now gone the new construction route because she actually found a floor plan that she really likes, and it backs up to a cattle farm or something. That's
so
been
there's
there.
no neighbors behind her.
Correct. Yeah. She really didn't want neighbors behind her, like looking into someone else's backyard and then looking into her backyard. But she backs up to a bunch of cows, and she lives on a farm now, so she's like, this feels like home. So.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people have to come to that realization, especially during this time of year where, while there is like more inventory coming on the market, I do also feel like there's things that have been there that have been sitting, and usually there's a reason for that.
Yes.
So that is the hard part about this time of year, is that there's just limited options, and then once you've seen them all, like, you've seen them all.
Yeah. Yeah, especially whenever you're looking for a very like specific thing, or like, only between 250 and 275 or something like that, where it's like livable homes that you can move in and like not really have to do much updating. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely look at all of those in a month or so, and then not really know where to go from there. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I think also pricing expectations are a little different now. I mean, when I first started, this was like around COVID. So like when I bought my first house around COVID happening, it was a situation where like, why would you rent when you can buy a house for the same price? Obviously you have to like put a down payment down, but it was very comparable. And then after that, like 2020 through 2022, it was just like so much appreciation in the market. It's not comparable anymore. Like you can rent a house for cheaper than you can buy that same house. And I think people are feeling that. And then their expectations whenever they go to look at a house are like, well, I'm renting a house in the same neighborhood and it's more updated, or it has this, this, and this, and I don't want to have to pay more. At the same time, it's like, okay, well, you're putting the least amount down, or, you're getting into this home for a lot less money than you would think. Yes, it is a big investment, right, as a first-time buyer, but still.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think a lot of people really acknowledge, realtors at least, I don't think realtors acknowledge that that's not really the case in today's story, but because typically it's like, oh, if you're looking for a lease over $1,500, like, have you ever considered it? Which, that can still be the conversation, but the expectation of getting the exact same home that you're in, like, absolutely not.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere is what I try to tell my people. But yeah, so based on the MLS data, average days on market right now is around 125. So that's increased from the last time I think we mentioned it at some point.
Yes.
Before it was between like 90 to 100 days. Now it's around 125.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
So just putting that into perspective, we're in a pretty balanced market, but what I've been seeing with my clients is just like we mentioned earlier, the ones that are good, like priced right, good condition, ideal location, those are going very quick.
Yes, I have a guy closing early March. He rents in a neighborhood here, but the rent payment doesn't really, I guess, affect him very much. He owns his own business. I think he's only like 23, so he's got it figured out. He's doing good for himself for sure. Definitely can respect that. There's a house that got listed down the street from him, and he's like, you know what, like, I've never thought about this. Like, maybe let's look into it.
Yeah.
And turns out that home only sat there for I think a week, and we got somehow an offer accepted, 10,000 under, and a little bit of cash back to him at closing for some seller concessions. But anyways, yeah, I think you're right. It was a great home. It was vacant. It was well maintained. All the things. It wasn't like super overpriced. I actually had it priced over listing price. But my client was like, let's just see. I'm like, all right. You know, like you said, you never know what they're going to say. The worst they can do is say no and just stick to it. And I was like, here, like, look, they've only been on market for 7 days. Like, I don't know if they're going to take something anything less than list. And he was like, I know, but like, who knows? I was like, all right, let's do it. And somehow they accepted it. So good stuff there. But yeah, I think you're right. The homes that are priced well maintained in a good location, like those are going super fast.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that are, you know, maybe like a fix and flip that are super overpriced that, you know, maybe the margins were off to begin with. Those are the ones that are really sitting there for a while.
Yeah, and that's the hard part too. Or maybe they're tenant occupied, or you know, they're an older home, and it's just so hard to justify a purchase, I think, for some people, if it's not purely investment, to say like, okay, like a house I showed just yesterday, 1950s build, great location, like near campus in the neighborhood that my client wanted, but there was definitely some foundation issues. And if it wasn't foundation issues, the next one we went to look at just a couple streets over had like a weird layout, because it's like a 1950s build. So they like converted the garage into a second living room, and it's a step down, and like there was another bedroom off the living room that was like size of a closet. Like it was just weird. Yeah. So I think it's just a interesting situation with some of these houses out there.
Yes. Yeah. If y'all are ever walking y'all's two pugs, are those pugs? I don't know.
Frenchies, I think.
Frenchies. If y'all ever watching y'all's Frenchies, those are cute. Those are cute dogs. They should check out our podcast one day.
They should. If you're listening, you need to come to the YouTube channel and see what we were talking about on the camera behind us. But
what were we talking about?
Yes, days on market around 125, but the good ones are going really quickly.
Yes, that.
So yeah, yesterday I had a client that I've been working with her almost a year now. She came into an open house, I think around this time last year, and she is very financially qualified, like was easily able to get approved. I think I talked to her for around 6 months or so before we actually went and saw another house besides the one that I met her at. And you know, just been kind of a long time coming. We had an accepted offer. We were under contract on a townhome a while back, and it just didn't end up working out with the amount of work that it needed, or that she felt it needed. So we've been looking at like everything, and she wants to be in a specific neighborhood. And again, it's hard when you want something with lower maintenance, but you want to be in the middle of town.
Right.
So yeah, like you mentioned earlier, I saw a house get listed on MLS yesterday afternoon, and like I immediately texted the agent like, can I show it this evening?
Wow.
And then he calls me and he's like you're quick, like I just listed this 10 minutes ago. I haven't even put out the sign, I don't even have the super box out there, are you okay with showing it? I can just give you the code. And I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Let's do it.
Luckily it was Super Bowl Sunday, so I think that helped in not having other competition, and then also just getting things done quickly. I'm not a football fan, so I wasn't doing anything.
Efficient agent right there.
Yes. Oh yeah, and we got the offer accepted, by the way, so thank God.
So that's just proof that open houses work.
Open houses do work. But
they may take time.
But they take time.
But you do meet people at open houses.
Yeah, you should consider talking to your agent at the open house if you think you could vibe with them. Again, like it's been so long since I first met her. This is not something where I tried to like sell her when I first met her.
Yeah, and
So,
I think most agents would sit the open house, get her as, a sign-in sheet or something, talk to her for a couple months max, if they even make it that long, and then just kind of like, she doesn't seem serious,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I mean, the relationship and, connection y'all built over the last year, I'm sure has helped with this entire process. So all good things.
yeah, it's frustrating right now in the market though. I don't know if your clients have felt this, but it's like, okay, we've seen so many houses. Like we've made offers and not gotten them accepted. It's just very frustrating and overwhelming at times to feel like you've exhausted all your resources. You're looking at the market every single day.
Yeah.
And this is in addition to all your other responsibilities in life. So yeah, I know she was definitely getting a little burnt out, and we actually took a break from the last offer we made because we couldn't come to an agreement with the seller. And we kind of regrouped, and I said, hey, maybe lean on your family a little bit more, have some support. And I think it can be very helpful to have like another person there with you when you're looking at houses, just family member or close friend that can affirm everything that they're looking at. Like, hey, the agent is saying this is also what you wanted, but like I can also see how you would be living here.
For sure. My client, she was definitely getting burnt out. She was, just kind of like questioning like what's like I thought this was like an enjoyable thing. Like this has been very frustrating, and of course it never became like I'm on a different team or anything. It was always like I'm on her side, and she felt that too. So that was always good not to have to question that. But she was like, here's how I'm feeling about this whole process, and I was like, you know what, like I understand. Like for me, this has been a lot too. Like I definitely thought that like what you were looking for would be a lot more obtainable. But obviously we've submitted over 4 offers now. Like this has been kind of the same thing every time. And then I think she called me on like a Saturday at like 6 o'clock, and she was like, hey, what's going on? She's like, because we took a break too.
Yeah.
I guess she was talking to someone with like an apartment company. I still don't understand where she ended up, but she was talking to someone with an apartment company, heard about this house in a new development area, and then she went and viewed that home, and she called me from the living room of it, and she was like, hey, and I was like, so what's going on? Like how's your day going or something? Just being polite.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm currently standing in, a new home with this builder, and I'm kind of liking it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like crap, what do we do now? And so yeah, I went over there, I think like 10 minutes after that phone call, and it was her and her son, which her son's kind of been that like personality hire, like just always, cheerful, like affirming things, talking through things with her. So that's always been cool. But super intelligent kid. I think he was only like 13 or something, so he's younger. But anyways, she was just sitting on the floor of a vacant home, and I walked in. I was like, how's everyone doing? And she was like, I don't know how I got here. I don't know what's going on. Like, please help. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And so we talked through things for about a little over an hour, and yeah, she was very overwhelmed. But at the end of the day, like, that was what they were looking for, and they found it. Signed the deal that night, and I drove home in the dark on a Saturday, and I was like, wow, like that was a lot. So yeah, I mean, I think emotions, as much as you want to say they shouldn't affect decision making in real estate, like oftentimes, unless you've been doing this for a very long time, they do.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was cool, but it was also like overwhelming, and also a big like relief too. Like it was like she finally was like she felt comfortable moving forward with this one. She was okay with the price, loved all the incentives, all those things. But yeah, I mean, I just say all that to say like it's a very stressful process. It is. But you kind of have to go into it expecting some hiccups.
Right.
And just be patient and just keep moving forwards.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you say is if you're overwhelmed, if you're stressed out, if you have a very peculiar situation of the type of house you want, don't rule out new construction just because it has an HOA.
Yes.
I have had so many people tell me I do not want to be in an HOA, and then we get into that, and it's like what they're wanting is they don't want someone telling them what to do. But most HOAs in this price point are not going to be like standing at your window. Like, there's not gonna be like someone, I don't know, jotting down that you haven't mowed your grass necessarily, right? Like, you're gonna be upkeeping your house as you normally would. And it's funny because these people that don't want an HOA are usually the people that would be should have an HOA.
They're not the risk themselves. Like
Yeah.
they're not going to like leave old motors in the front yard.
Right.
They like you said, they just don't want someone like taking pictures of the home, like sending it to them, telling them to change something. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah, the HOA one's always funny to kind of work through, you know, because
Right.
she's actually she doesn't love a few things about it. Like you can't like put like sheds or trees or something like somewhere, but other than that, I mean, she's fine.
Yeah, I think that's a big hurdle that people have to just get through is like,
Yeah.
is this really that important to me? Especially after you've exhausted your resources looking at resale homes. And then you think about, okay, new construction has warranties.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super busy. I don't want to have to deal with maintenance. Like, what is really the goal here?
Right.
I think sometimes it just takes people a little bit longer to get to that point.
I agree. A lot of the homes not in HOAs, the actual home itself may be fine, but like as you're driving in, like you may see boats or random things that are just like been sitting there for a while. And then like she told me multiple times, like, oh, this place, like, you know, like we haven't gone inside yet. And she doesn't just really like the environment, I guess,
Yeah.
or like the location or whatever it may have been. But yeah, I mean, I think the HOAs, a lot of the time it's just there to protect you as the homeowner and not necessarily like negatively affect you. But that's probably a different episode.
Yes, yeah. And if you are interested in new construction, we did do an episode on that recently,
We did.
the pros and cons of new construction. So if y'all want to go back and listen to that, it can be highly valuable to just understand if you're the type of person who might benefit from looking into new construction. But yeah, I think that's, you know, kind of what's going on in the market. Do you have any other insights you think would be valuable?
Always ask for the builder incentives, and that's all I got right now.
Yeah. I think that new construction right now is a little bit of a hack. Like, okay, if you need seller paid closing costs, they're offering them. If you really need a lower interest rate, you can potentially get it with their, with their preferred lender. You just have to be willing to be in certain locations that may not be right next to town.
Correct.
Might be, 5 or 10 minutes away from town. But yeah, I totally agree. I think that new builds right now certainly have a lot of upsides to them in comparison to the resale market, just because of the expectations that we talked about.
Yeah, and like the builders do have, I think the biggest leg they have is like their financing, just because again, like you can get 10,000 at closing and a 4.99 interest rate if you qualify, obviously. But
yeah, and what builder is that with, by the way? Do you remember?
The 4.99 and 10,000 was with Stylecraft.
Okay.
And then my client currently is with DR Horton, and she's getting 2% of the sales price back to her closing, and then 4.99 as well. So, I mean, a lot of builders have a lot of different incentives. Some other clients I have, they're not using the preferred lender, but the builder is still offering 7,000. Well, we negotiated 7. They're offering 4, but they were still offering cash at close, which was cool. So, yeah. That makes it a little unfair sometimes if you don't mind living in those areas. A lot of the times, if you like absolutely hate it, then yeah, that's not really going to matter to you.
Right.
But if you're on the fence, that may be like the thing that kind of pushes you one side or the other.
Yeah, and if you guys have questions about what builders are offering right now, our social media links are down below. Please DM us and ask us any questions that you have. Don't just blindly go to these neighborhoods, because you might find yourself signing papers that you weren't expecting to sign. And you might be there unrepresented. I've had this happen with clients before. So make sure you are talking with a real estate professional who can advise you and advocate for you on these transactions. But yeah, like I said, follow us in our social media links down below. Please subscribe, and if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to DM us or shoot us an email, and we will see y'all on the next one.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. We hope you found something useful, or at least had a good time listening.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to subscribe or share it with someone who might enjoy this content.
And if you have any questions or topics you want us to cover, reach out to us on Instagram. Everything will be linked below for you.